All right, welcome everyone. I'm RicardoBerris. I'm with the MI Group. Thank you for joining in our Grow It Software webinar. This is actually a series of webinar that we're putting together. So every month we want to do a webinar, just have another conversation about building software. Someone says software is eating the world, and believe it or not, the world has been eaten by software. And everywhere you look, every industry, every business is using technology in ways that we've never seen them doing it before. We've seen what the pandemic has showed us and has taught us about the utilization of software and the integration of software and technology into our business, curbside pickup, QR codes, new apps, new platforms, and there's just so many things going on when it relates to software. And that's part of why we thought it would be helpful to you or viewers on how do we actually grow our business with software. Now, while I do have technical skills and I do have a technical background, I've stopped programming and coding for a while. So I just focus a lot on the business side of it. So I'm you, because you're a small business owner. I'm also a small business owner. So my perspective is similar to yours, because when I look at things, I look at it from the business standpoint. But we do have technical people in the room, and I'll introduce them shortly. And a big part of bringing in the combination of technical skills with business skills is really to have a business discussion on the business side of your application when you build it, because the technical folks will handle the technical piece. But when it comes to the business model, and these are the pieces that are important to getting your platform, getting your technology, whatever it is that you want to build. If it's an app, an application, which is an app in short, whether it's for the web or for the mobile device you're distributing across those multiple platforms. If it's an internal app, if it's for internal purposes, where it's just for your team or for your staff. If it's public, where you want to, of course, have customer facing, whether it's a D2C, direct to consumers, or you want to have business to business, or you might be creating something that it would be a business to government, which is a business, you're doing business for the government. Whatever your business is, the integration of software technology into that business is crucial today, more than even so in the past. And so this webinar, the purpose of the webinar is to help you to understand, what do I need to be doing and thinking about as I'm coming up with an idea for building an app, or I'm having a problem that I want to solve. I have something I want to systemize. There's so many reasons why you would want to build a software. And we want to show you, and we want to talk to you in this webinar about how do we actually go about it, and if that actually makes sense to you, to even have a conversation with us to figure out, okay, what should I be thinking about or doing if I want to build this. A lot of times when we're asked about building software in our initial sessions with clients, the first set of things that we always talk about are requirements. What is it that you're looking to build? What do you want to build? What will this software do? And we like to kind of think of it as jobs, right? So what's the jobs that the software is going to be providing? Because the users are almost kind of like the people who are going to do the job. So what do you want the users to actually do on the software when they go? How many users, how many types of users are you going to be having on the software using the app? Is it just going to be end consumers? Is it going to be business? So understanding the users, understanding functionalities, which is how do we want this software to behave? What are the jobs that the software is going to allow the users to do? Logging into a software is the user performing that role, but the software was built to facilitate that login. So the job is logging in or registering, and the user is the one who performs the role. So as we break this down, there are so many different pieces and moving parts that you are required to think about as you're building a proprietary software. And you all might have used software before. There's no doubt, even if you're on this call or you're watching this webinar, like you would have had to use a software You have to get onto Zoom. Zoom is a software. It's an application. You have to get on the internet. The browser is a software. The websites you go on, these are software. The things that you do, you pick your phone up to make a call, these are software. So there are a number of different applications and different purposes for the application. We want to focus on the ones that make the small businesses and the other medium-sized businesses turn today, which are mainly web applications and mobile applications. These are distribution outlets when you create a system to allow users to access and perform certain jobs. So we build that environment to do that. I do have here with me a few of my teammates that I will introduce. Divyesh, Savaliya, and he is our technical architect, and he has over 7 years of experience in building applications, building all kinds of applications, mobile app, web app, across multiple languages too. And so we're not just talking about one kind of language, which is something that you'll also understand when you're building software or when you're building any applications. It's what kind of language, what kind of technology is more suitable for this. So this is a question that we typically have to answer along the path of building the software. So you're talking about JavaScript, JavaScript technology, React, you're talking about Ruby, Rails, you're talking about Ionic framework or Angular or Node.js. So these are different pieces of technology that when it's built, when your application is built, you're the underlying technology that's really making this work. These are the ones that we're actually talking about. So Divyesh is here to give us some ideas around how do you go about building an app, whatever this app is, right? If it's for your restaurant, if it's for your clothing store, if it's for e-commerce, if it's for your professional services, for your law firm, if it's for your inventory control, if it's for your booking business, or you're building something like a Uber, if you're building something like an Airbnb, like how do you go about building? What are some of the first things that you need to be considering? We don't have much time, so we can't talk about every single facets of the application building here in this call. But what we're going to talk about are some of the initial things to start with in terms of where do you actually start. If you understand that the requirement gathering is the first phase that we have to go through, because if we don't know what you want, any road is going to take you there, and you will have anything, and that's not going to work for that's not going to work for an app. So you want to make sure that we understand what do you actually need from this app. So I want to hand it over to you, Divyesh, to talk a little about some of the technical things that are needed to be considered for people who are thinking about building something. They have an idea, they're going through something, they're dealing with a problem in the organization, they're looking to maybe start a business with this application. Maybe they're having some internal issues, maybe they're currently having some issues with customers or systems, and they're looking for a solution. So I want to hand it over to you to begin to have that conversation with us here on what are some of the things that we need to look for. So over to you. Thank you so much for jumping in. Let's do it.
Yeah, thanks, Ricardo, for introducing me. Okay, so as Ricardo discussed about the development, so basically what process we follow for the development. For example, if you come up with any issues or ideas that you want these things to grow your business. So for example, if you want the application for your business, or you come up with an idea, for example, let's say you say that I want an application, I keep forgetting my daily activities that I want to do. So you just come up with an idea that I want an application where I can, plan my activities, and I can mark those activities as a done, whatever the activities is completed, so that it will help you to keep an idea, and keep the application will help you to remember those things that you are going to perform during the day. So that basically we call it as a to-do app. So where you can add your task that in the morning, first you are going to do these things, and then after that you have to do this, and whatever the task you complete, you will just mark it as a done. So that's the things you come up with an idea. So basically in terms of the development, first we understood your requirement that this is this kind of the application you need. So first part is we create the basic rough wireframe for your idea. So let me quickly share my screen and I'll give you an idea that how the wireframe is built. Let me know if you guys can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Yeah, cool. So this is the tool we are using, which is called the Balsamic Mock-Up, and which is allow us to build the different kind of the UI mock-up, basic rough wireframe for whether it is a website, whether it is a mobile app, whether it is a app for tablet. So basically, for example, if you are building the website, then I can just drag and drop the container and get start with it. But if you are building something for mobile, so as the initial, just to get an initial idea, you say that I need a mobile application where I can add the to-dos information that I am going to perform the task. So I can drag and drop the mobile screen just to get an idea, and then I can start with adding label and text, and that's how the wireframe is built. So just for an example, this is how the wireframe is built, but at the end, we will prepare a wireframe, something like this, which will have the name of the application or what is the app is about on the top of this, which is we are going to name it as a to-do in this case. You will got to see all the tasks you are adding to perform during your day. And then if you want to add a new task, you will get an input here, and you will have the plus button here. So whatever the task you add, it will be visible here. And if you mark any task as a done, basically this checkbox will be filled with color. And if the task is not done, it will be remain the transparent. So that was the idea of whether your task is completed or not. And if your task is completed, that means you will see the strike through over the text. So you will get an idea that this task is completed. So once we prepare the wireframe, we will present it to you that this is how your app will look like, basic, and this is the idea of it. Next task will be, we will create the actual UI of that, how it will look like. So based on wireframe, once we agree that we are okay, that we will have the input, but we will have the input field here, we will have the button here. It's okay to list all the tasks here in this manner. So this is the first step, that after understanding the requirement, we prepare the wireframe. And after we have the wireframe ready, we will work next on the UI design. So basically what the color we will use, what the font we will use, and exact those things, what will be the distance, spacing between these two elements and all those stuff. So we are using the Figma tool for that. So let me just show you here. This is the design I have built from that wireframe. So as you can see, this is how the app will exactly look like. We have chosen this kind of color, that this is how it will look. This will be the background. This will be the font size. There it will be the white background color and all those. So exactly this is how the app will look like. And once we agreed on the UI, then we will start building the application. So just for the demo purpose, I have already built with the build one application with the React Native. So React Native is basically the hybrid platform created and managed by Facebook. So what is the benefit of using React Native is, if we build with React Native, we don't have to write code for both different platforms. And if you write the code once, that code will run on both Android and iOS. So this is the simple app I have built. So right now, if you can see, I have this to-do title here. I don't have any task added yet. This is the input field, which will be exact same as what we have in the design. And we will have this plus button. So if I want to add any new task, let's say meeting at 10 a.m. And if I click on add, so we will see that the no to do task added yet, the text is removed, and now we are seeing this task, that this task we need we need to complete during the day. And as you can see, when I add the task, the text input get cleared, and we can add more tasks. We also have some validations, like if you click the add button without writing something in the task, then it will not add anything. Now if I for example, if I want to add another task, let's say start work on design after meeting, so I can edit like that. And for example, my meeting is over now, so I can click on that, and as you can see, that meeting is completed and this task is still remaining. If I by mistake and click on this one and the task is not completed yet, I click again, and mark it as undone. So this is how the simple app looks like, and this is the process we follow. And after that, once we are done with the building, we send the build for you to test on your device, on the different size of the device, different Android and iOS device, like for example iPhone 13, iPhone 12, and you can check that how it looks on the different size of device. If the app is supported on the iPad, you can also install it on the iPad, and you can check it there. You can the next part is basically the testing. Like as I mentioned in the testing, what happen if you try to add this, click this button without writing anything? It should not insert the empty task. So all the things are coming in the testing once we finish with the development. So yeah, that's the process we follow for the development. And once we are ready with the app, we can release it to the Play Store for Android and App Store for the iOS. So yeah, that's the process we are following.
Awesome. This is great. So we start with the wireframe, right? And the wireframe is where if you can just bring that wireframe back up real quick, the wireframe is where we conceptualize the idea of what you want to build. And even before we get to the wireframe phase, we have to know what you're building. So where we collect what we call requirements. So what are the functions? What do you actually want to do? So in this particular case, we want to build an app that allows us to monitor tasks, right? So we want to add task, which is adding a task would be a functionality. Adding a task would be a function. Checking a task, right? Maybe deleting a task, sorting the task. Those are stuff that we would particularly collect as you would want to have function in the app. So the wireframe phase is very, very important, because that allows for us to visualize exactly what's going to actually happen in the most basic way, or the most basic sense possible. So let me ask you something, Divyesh, for the purpose of our audience. So when you are building a wireframe like this, what do we typically need from a client before we get to start building wireframe?
Yeah, sure. So basically this was the very basic app, so it was not require much effort or detail. But if you are talking about the bigger app, for example, the client says that I need an application to build the food to my customer. I'm running a restaurant and I need an application to deliver the food. Then what they need to give us is that what are the feature and functionality they need. For example, if they says that we need the login screen, so login screen can be done in a multiple ways. For example, they says we won't allow user to log in with just an email and password. The another requirement that we won't allow user to log in with the phone number and their password. We won't allow user to log in with the Google account. We won't allow user to log in with the Facebook account. We won't allow user to log in with the Apple account. All those things that needs to be mentioned in the document. So when I start on the wireframe, I have a particular idea that this much functionality we need to build in the app. So when I build the wireframe for login app, I need to put all the buttons for social logins, Facebook login, Apple login, all the stuff, and I need to make the placeholder clear that user can enter the phone number or email and the password. So that's how basically we need to understand the requirements. So that's to build the wireframe. First, I need to have the clear document of the requirement so that I can build the wireframe properly as per expectation of the client.
Awesome. And so those list of functionalities and those list of features that you need, it's really, as you think about your app and as you think about things like, who am I serving with this app? What is I want them to do? This is really how you begin to think about the functions of the app. What is it going to be doing? Because you're building the app not for you, you're building it for a type of user, whether it's your customers or it's your teams or it's a group of executives. So you have different types of users. So typically you want to identify the types of users who will be using the app. Then you want to understand what will they use the app to do. You want them to take picture, you want them to record video, you want them to upload information, you want them to download information. And so we typically like to look at those things first before we can start doing the wireframing. So once we do the wireframing, it's now clear to you and to us what exactly is that we're going. So it's screen after screen. So we literally have to create the journey of the screen after screen. What's the first screen that the user is going to be dealing with? Well, you want him to deal with the login screen or the registration screen. Then what's the second screen? Then what's the third and the fourth and so forth? So we have to literally design the entire journey of the usership for the app, because that's going to give us a better understanding. And the clearer we are at the very beginning stage, which is at this stage, the better it is for us. And I want to see that UI piece again, Divyesh. Yeah, so we can actually talk through it. And this is really kind of when it gets interesting here at this stage, right? Where we've collected the functionalities and the features. We are now looking at, okay, we now need to do this user interface. We're considering things like the branding. What are the branding? What are the colors of your brand? How do you want this to actually look, and the look and feel? This is where we start adding, if you may, meat to it. So if you know the wireframe is a skeleton, it's all kind of like a black and white sketch of what things are going to look like, because the wireframe, the objective of the wireframe is not to look at colors and and features in that regard. The objective of the wireframe is to get a basic concept almost of what exactly we're actually building from start to finish. Now, when you get to the UI parts, when you're adding other things to it, so you're adding colors, you're adding shapes, right? You're adding font style, you're adding these different pieces to really make the thing work. And so here at this stage, what are some of the possibilities that exist here, Divyesh, as someone think about, okay, we're now in the UI stage where we're designing the look and feel of the app. Do we need to design everything the same way we sketch it up on the wireframe?
Yeah, so basically the wireframe was just, to get an idea about that where the element will be look like, but how the element will look like exactly on the app, that will be the part of the design. For example, if you look here on the wireframe, so here we will get an idea that there will be the input where user can add the task, but how exactly that input will look like, that will be designed on the that will be visualized on the design part. And this is how it will exactly look on when we build the application.
Awesome. So this is about getting to a place where what we're doing here in the UI phase of things is we're designing, and this is probably like phase 3 in that whole process, because we have to collect functions and requirements first. Remember, we have to do that requirement gathering first, then we have to do that wireframing, and then we have to do the UI. And so when we're at the UI, this is exactly what things are going to look like in the apps. And it's important for you, as the project owner, as the owner for the app, it's important for you to be able to approve these different processes and see, envision what it's going to look like. A lot of times people can't envision the end result and just kind of what it's going to look like in the actual app store or on the actual website. You can then look at other apps, maybe this is going to be a big part of your research. I would typically advise my clients around what are the alternatives. If somebody's not using this task app or your task app, which other apps are they using? And get inspiration from there, because that's going to actually help you to create something that might not have existed. And I promise you, every app that you have in the App Store, those app builders have looked at some other apps before. It's always like playing a game, right? For every time you play a game, you got to know who the players are. Because if you're going to win, you got to know who to pass the ball to, you got to know what role they're playing. And so you have to know who they are, because you don't do this thing on your own. It's the same way that we do here from a business, and this is from the business side. As a business person, you want to know if nobody's using my app, which app they are using. What are the alternatives, or what we call competition? Who are the other people that we're going to be competing in this space with? Because a lot of times, if you're funding this app yourself, or you're getting, private funding or venture funding, the biggest question that you're going to have to deal with, even in your pitch deck, is going to be, who are your competition? And they typically will tell you, if you don't have any competition, you're probably either too early right? Or your stuff is not ready yet. And so those things are important. But what you see here is all of those things that we compile. We're at this stage now where you're seeing the living, live look and feel from a user interface perspective. It's called UI, of what exactly the outcome of your app is going to be. And then we have the other phase, right, which is the actual testing phase. So say you are good, the actual testing phase is, okay, let's go to the actual place where you're going to be browsing it. The website, the mobile phone, this is exactly how it's going to look. This is how, when you touch it, is going to happen. When you touch meeting at 10 a.m. and you click on it, this is exactly how it's going to behave. So we're programming the behavior of the app to making sure that it does what it needs to do. And then there are some other behavior that probably are not allowed, like Divyesh mentioned. If you try to hit that plus button down on the app without entering anything, it's not going to go, because that behavior is not allowed, because that's a validation behavior that says, in order for you to proceed here, you have to, you're going to have to actually put in the information. That wasn't available on that wasn't visible on the UI, but then once you start doing that on the actual live app, you begin to see the different validation that that's possible. Now, Divyesh, this is obviously an iPhone preview, but this can also happen across other types of devices as well, correct?
Yeah, it can be possible to run this on the Android, iPad, all the different iPhones.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. And this is great. So as you think about, and this is a very simple approach, but you imagine this being for a complex app, it's the same process that we have to go through. Because if we don't understand it at its simplest level, you're going to have a problem understanding it when it gets complex, right? So you want to understand the fundamentals of the different phases. And we always say, and this is how we build it. This is how we build every application. This is how we build everything that that we do. Just understanding the phase at which we push these through. Now, once you are approved of this state, this is a testing phase. So this is a phase where you, the project owner, gets to see in live without the public. You get to see what's going on, how the app functions, how it's behaving, what is working, what might not be working. And then we go back to the drawing board and we can fix things. But if it gets to this place, it would have meant that you would have been a part of that approval process. You would have been a part of that process all the way to here. There is absolutely no way that you can get an app into the testing environment like this and you weren't a part of that UI. You didn't see the UI. You didn't see what the wireframe is. You didn't see how these things work. And so if you end up there without seeing the rest, it's going to be tough, because some things you might not like, and this is not your app anymore. This is either your developer's own idea of what the app is and so forth. So you want to be involved in this process to really ensure that things are working for you. A lot of times, one of the things that we experience in our business too is people hire developers, or they hire a team of developers, and they don't understand some of the technical things that the developers or the development team needs to do. So they are lacking some management that is between the development team and their team as project owners. So they would hire what we call technical project managers or project managers to really help them to oversee what is happening. So you might not be tech savvy or technical enough to know that, okay, what about the validation here? You're just going through different things. But if you have a technical project manager, if you have technical architects who can look and see, okay, this needs to be fixed because this validation didn't work, this behavior didn't work. We had this as part of the scope and it wasn't working. When we got to this testing phase, we have to go back and we actually have to fix it. Because there are a lot of things when you're building apps, especially if they're complex apps, which means it's so much larger than this one, you're going to have to consider those. And it's line by line, you have to ensure that everything actually works. But the most important thing is the testing phase, where now you are testing the actual thing. What does it actually look like on my phone? What does it actually look like? How does it behave? How does it feel? And that's powerful. And once you're done here, what typically happens next once they approve it at this testing phase level? What's the thing that typically happens next, Divyesh, once they would have tested it here at this testing level? Is it now we submit it for approvals to the stores?
Yeah, so basically once you have tested the app, basically if you find any bugs, the next process is to fix the bugs. If you find that this behavior could be, could be improved, or user may not get an idea, like how user get an idea that if you click on this, it will get a strike through. So if they think about, for example, if we need to show the user the tutorial that this is how the app will work, so we can add that. Otherwise, if we are 100% okay that the app is ready to go live, so in that case we just build it and we take the screenshot and add all the information, like what is the app about. So when we release it to Play Store or App Store, they need the description to show it to user, that if it's a to-do app, what it does, how it looks like. So then we need to upload the screenshot and everything, and then we release it to the stores. So first it will go to the Android or Apple for the approval. They will also check that the whether is app is okay, it is the description that you have added is clearly understood by user. So all those things they will also verify. Once they are verified and they are okay to release it, they'll just approve it, and then the app is ready to download for user in the stores.
Yeah, and that's interesting, because you raised a valid point there about just telling people before you publish the app. There's that little piece that we have to cover, which is telling new users or people who are not familiar with this app what does each component does, like what does each function does. So when you do, we call it the guided tour, right? Where you have either guided tour or you have the help section that tells people what does it actually do. So people who are not sure what this app does, what exactly you do here, then you can see those instructions, because that's very, very important in really helping your users to have that user experience that's better for them. Because a lot of times they don't know what to do. A lot of times it's also intuition, but you can't rely on that, and you have to make zero assumption that they will know what to do. The best practice is to have some kind of helpful content that will allow them to understand, okay, here is what you actually do. Here's how you use the app. You add a task one at a time by doing this. And you might have experienced that when you download apps yourself, or when you go to visit an application. You might have seen what we call it a guided tour, that basically gives you a tour around, okay, these are the basic things that you need to do. And if you need help, there's always that helpful content, a knowledge base that provides information on how you actually use it. There's video, there is different tutorials on how you use it, just so you can have the best experience with the app itself. And so that's important, because then that actually has to come once we're in those phases where you can test that again and see, does it actually make sense to a user who is not familiar with this at all? And then once all of that is done and we're satisfied, then we can look at publishing this to the stores. And so once that's published to the stores, the publishing requirements is a little different than the requirement, for example, that we did when we were starting the app. But the requirements are not massive, but you have to follow the guidelines of the iOS stores, the guidelines of the Android stores. Wherever we're putting, we have to follow those guidelines so that we can increase the odds of being approved. And then once we're approved, then what happens after approval is that the app is going to be made available. And so if you go to the App Store today, which is usually what we encourage our clients to do, go to the App Store, like go to the place where you want to be, browse, take a look around some of the apps of the week or the apps of the month, the featured apps. Like, take a look around. What are some of the things Apple like to see in their store? What exactly this app does? Why Apple will be grading it the app of the week? Or what does Android like? Why are they featuring this app? And download it, sign up for it, go take a look around it. Just being curious is so helpful, because it allows for you to see exactly this is where you will be going. When all is said and done, we build your application, it's going to be in the App Store as well. And it might get voted as app of the week. You'll never know. So you take a look at these and see exactly what is the reason, or the reasons. What are the reasons this app is app of the week, or it's a top app, or it's received top download? We will tell you this. I think the report says maybe over 90% of the apps in the App Store. There are millions of apps in the App Store, millions of apps. But about 90% of the over 90% of the apps in the App Store, they have never gotten over 1,000 downloads, which is very, very interesting. There's so many apps in the stores that nobody has downloaded them over 1,000 plus times. And they're sitting there for years and they have to update them and so forth, which presents another problem. And I typically like to say to my clients, this is something that you have to think about in the early stage as you're building your app. Not only who are the users for the app, because we established that already while we're building, but also how are you going to reach them? And you've got to be thinking about that. If you are building a utility app that you want people to use the app all the time, you take Airbnb, for example, like people use the app all the time, or Uber. These are apps that are part of people's lives now, and they use these apps, right? When you go on your phone, the Apple Music, these are apps, WhatsApp and Slack and all of these apps that you use on a regular basis. You've got to ask yourself, how did they end up into this position? Not all apps are utility apps. That you don't actually use it for productivity purposes or so. There are different types of categories of apps. That's why when you go to the App Store, you got to understand gaming apps are different from productivity app, or different from mindset apps, or different kinds of apps that are out there. And you want to know what those are, because the more informed you are about what you want to build, the better it is the experience in working with a group of developers and programmers on how to actually build it. So we always encourage clients to think about the usership. How are you going to actually get to them? And if you can have a plan all the way up in your timeline before you launch the app, because the problem, I suppose, that the owners of these apps have when they launch the app is they never had a plan to get users. They probably just think once they put it into the Apple Store, it's going to start getting, people are going to start finding it and people are going to start downloading it. And I can promise you that's not the case. This is why you've got to figure out the game plan, PR, marketing, getting your first cohort of users. Like, you've got to figure out a way how to get people to use your app. Otherwise, your app is going to be dead in the water. And so that's another thing, and we'll cover that in another webinar perhaps. But this has been very, very helpful, very, very informative in terms of how we go about the different phases of building the app. And I want to take you through just kind of one, and maybe Divyesh, you can stop sharing your screen here, because I want to switch to one app that we've actually built, and we built this a few years ago, but I still wanted to show you. And it's a web app that we built a few years ago. And it's funny how things and times have changed so much that we're constantly updating, and you have to do that. You have to constantly update the app. You have to constantly bring it up to speed and keep the technology up. So I want to show you one that we did. And we did this app, and I want to show this app to you. So let me just bring my screen up real quick to show you. So this app for us is called mMessenger. And so what you're actually seeing here is what pretty much is called a landing page for this app. And this app was built a few years ago to allow people to send SMS. So again, the purpose of this app was to help people to send SMS marketing messages to more than 100 countries. So this is a part of the purpose of the app. So once we understand what is that we want, and these are the features, we want people to be able to do it anytime, anywhere, so they can send bulk messages. We want them to have a messaging scheduler. We want them to have a contact management, so they can manage their contacts. They can schedule their message. We want them to be able to check coverages and check the codes for all the countries that they're sending messages to around the world. We want them to check prices to see what price it is to send a message in a specific country. We want them to have delivery reports. So this is an example of the features, right? And these features, functionalities have to be built in to facilitate this. And you'll kind of see when we go on the inside, but this is kind of like a sales page. And so ideally, what we do here is we want to tell people exactly what the app could be used for. Now, these are the kind of users, retail, restaurants and clothing and other stores, churches and schools. These are the kind of business users that could use the apps. Delivery services, couriers, medical facilities, etc. So the reason that you want to be able to express yourself on the features, the functions, and what the app can actually do is because at the end of the day, you're going to need to build a landing page, a sales page. You're going to need to build something that speaks to, this is a web app, so this speaks to the things that you can actually do on the app. So, and then of course you will have a pricing. Now to use this app, you have to have a paid plan in order for you to be able to deliver the message. So let's take a look and say if we went in, you have the option here of signing up, right? You have the option here of signing up, and as you can see here, you have the registration, which is a function. So like what you saw on the wireframe that we were doing earlier, this is what we would put in the wireframe, right? We would sketch this out to say, here's what you need to set up an account. We need a username, we need a password, we need a validation of a password, we need email, and then you need to do a profile. And of course, you can't get past the get to the profile until you get to the account. And then you need to select a plan, and then you need to actually finish. And so we're actually going to skip this piece, but I wanted you to actually see exactly the kind of things that we have to consider. And I want to probably maybe sign into this app for you to be able to see what's happening. So this is kind of like a login screen for the app. So, and this is an older version of the app. The app has been updated now, but the fundamentals of building and how we build this, it's still, that piece is still exists. The colors and the different types of logging in. Now we can log in with Facebook, you can log in with Google, you can log in with your face, you can log in with your finger. There are so many different ways how you can deal with this screen. And so while this is all the fundamentals of how do you get people inside the app, do you want to prevent them from logging in and get them to a place where they can go in first? So you go in the app, and then this is basically what you see inside the app. This is now your account. This is now your dashboard, which because you log in, the system now takes care of your information and have your information here. So as you can see here, you've got the option of what we want people to be able to do is to put your recipient, send your message, deploy it. You can schedule it. We talk about scheduling your message for later, or you can send it now. You have the ability to upload your CSV file. So there's so many different pieces, which requires you as the project owner to think about what are all these things that we actually want, and we'll end up building them. Checking your remaining balance, being able to, if you are out of your balance, you can buy more credits. And if you're buying more credits, what is it that you need to be able to do? You can buy credits in different packs. You can choose how you want to pay, right? And so these are the important pieces of the function. These are functionalities and features that we're talking about. You're talking about coverage. We wanted people to see, okay, what's the coverage for different places? We wanted people to be able to see, okay, if I want to check the prices, where do I need to check the prices? So you can see, for example, a list of all the countries that you can see what the prices are and check the prices. Now, I'm actually in an admin section, so a lot of what you're seeing here, you're probably not going to see that inside the inside your section, but you will be able to see pricing. You'll also be able to see like your user information. We're in admin, and as admin, we're a user, so we're seeing more than the actual user would be able to see. So you're able to see the number of people that are in here, the number of different clients. You're able to see whether they're active or not, and then they're using the app and change. You can actually activate them or deactivate them. You can actually see your profile, so you can see who are the different types of users. In this app, we actually have 4 different types of users. So you'll be able to see which one of the users are their profile and how you can go in and edit their profile. So there are so many things that that you'll be able to actually do once you get into this app. You can change a password, which is also a function. If somebody wants to refresh a password, you can actually do that. You also have reports where you can actually download reports for a specific date period. You can look at access reports, you can look at delivery report, or you could just simply just exit and log out. And so this is an example of how we go about building these apps. So I hope that was helpful, folks. We will be putting this up into our on our webinar site, so you can always check it and look at it later. We'll send you a link with the recording for those persons who have RSVP'd in Zoom, couldn't make it, etc. We'll send you that link so that you'll be able to have this information. And so the next Grow With Software, we're going to be taking more detailed look at some of the technical project management, the benefits of having a technical person, overseeing the development of your app, because you're not a technical person. You're just a business owner. Like, you're just running your restaurant or running your law firm, or you're just doing that. But you need to be able to have technical people the same way. If you're going to have agreements and you're going to be doing contracts and different agreements, different document paperwork, you need a lawyer. And that's kind of because a lawyer focuses on helping you to get those things right. The same process on our end, you need the technical people to help you to facilitate these technicalities, because this is not it's not your to do, but having technical people by your side is really helpful in achieving the overall outcome that you're desirous of having. So we really hope that was valuable to you. Feel free to let us know if this is valuable. This is going to be available, like I said, in our webinar, on our webinar site, where you can log in and you can go in and take a look at this, as well as many other webinars that we would have done. So we'll see you within 1 month's time, which is on I think it's on the 14th of October. We are going to be talking about the benefits of having the technical project managers on your team, so they can actually help you to hold your developers accountable. If you already have a team of developers, they can help you to do that in the event that you want to get that kind of help. So thank you very much for watching, and we will definitely see you in another webinar soon. Have a good one, everybody. Thank you so much.